shut the door, is that okay, Chris? Thank you. Fabulous. Right. Hello. Hello, look at... Fucking lovely. I've made some fucking money. Unbelievable. Can't believe it. Shit. Yeah. Might have to declare this. This is so. Hello. Lovely to see you. It's fantastic. It's like the first night we had here back in March. So I don't know what to call you. I call the speakers Bavarders. So I was thinking today. Maybe Bavardians or I don't know, Bavarians. You're Bavarians. So thank you. Yes. So a fabulous Christmas special where you can win some mince pies. Literally unbelievable. But more important than that, I have a book here. I'm going to come to that in a minute. I have a brand new book, and the author is with us speaking tonight. So I'll come to that in a minute. But so there's lots of virgin Bavarians in tonight. Is that a thing? I think there's some people going through waving number. Some people are going through a sort of rite of passage, I think, as they enter into the Bavard experience. So I thought what I'd do, I sometimes do this, I haven't done this for a while, but I will just, as there are a number of virgins here, tell you what the Bavard is all about, so that you know, and then hopefully you'll come back and participate and get involved and connect, which is the whole kind of point. So, what is it? Well, essentially, I suppose, think TED, so think TED Talks, but TED for us. So, fuck the experts. We're all experts. We all have passions, and we all love stuff. And the fact that we might not be on telly or radio or whatever about those things we love does not devalue or demean those things we love. So it is about sharing those things that we love with each other if we want to. There's never any obligation to do that, of course. So kind of think TED, but that is to suggest that I got the idea from TED would be false, because in fact the person I got the idea from, and in fact blatantly plagiarised, nay, stole the idea, is standing looking at me because he can't get a seat. Because all you fuckers have got no, it's lovely. Is the one and only David Bramwell, who David runs a club in Brighton called the Catalyst Club, and that club. Wave of hands, who's been to the Catalyst? I know there's a few oh, look at that. Yes, you see. So the Catalyst Club, fabulous club in Brighton, has been going since 2004, David? Mm. Yeah, so David set the club up in 2004, and it is, that's the premise of the Bavard. I have stolen David's Catalyst Club. And I did, in fairness, ask him before I did nick it. And David said yes, and he said that's absolutely fine. So essentially, the seed of the Bavard is the Catalyst. And what the Catalyst club does, well, in fact, actually, I should say, to have David here tonight speaking is terribly exciting. Fantastic for you lot, because he's a bloody brilliant speaker and an amazing author and all the rest of it, but terrifying for me, because it's a bit like being Ofsteded, really. In a kind of weird way, in front of a live audience. So, is that okay, David? So, but yeah, so the essence of Bavard is David's Catalyst Club, and as I say, David's been, it's 14, no, you had your 13th anniversary, didn't you?
13 and a half years.
Yeah. Back in July, I think, or June, was it? I think okay. Yeah. So, brilliant club, and the idea, what David has done over the years, he gets 3 speakers, 3 regular people, regular folk, everyday folk, and they come and they share their passions for about 15 minutes each, give or take, and then after each talk, there are questions. And the talks can range, and David and I were discussing them downstairs. They can be funny, they can be sad, they can be about ordinary passions, they can be about extraordinary passions, they can be about niche, specialist things, bizarre things, or not at all. It's a whole range. It's everything that we are all into. And they are wonderful, wonderful nights. I've been there a lot, I've spoken there. It's on the second Thursday of every month at Brighton's latest music bar in Kent Town. So if you're ever in Brighton, I know you Eastbournians do stray, so if you are, I would highly recommend it. It's the seed for me. It's a wonderful, wonderful club, and I love it. Every night I go, I have a fantastic night there, and I'm hoping that you will do too here, as those of you that have come before, I think, have since you've come back again. So that's good. Right, this is I counted because I can do that, but this is the 8th time that we've done the Bavard here at Printers. So it's the 8th Bavard, and it's wonderful that there's so many of you. I also do it in St Leonard's at a venue called the Kino Teatre on Norman Road, and it's a lovely, lovely venue. It's a bit bigger than this venue, and I do it there. So I do the two. I do it in St Leonard's on the 3rd Wednesday, and at Printers on the 1st Thursday. I didn't kind of plan it like that. It just sort of happened, and now I've suddenly found I've got these two venues to do. But it's great fun. And there is a Christmas special coming up at the St Leonard's one on the 20th of December. I think there's about 20 tickets left. So if you want a double fix of Bavard, then there's another one in a couple of weeks' time. So we've had some fabulous, passionate talks over the past few Bavards. I've been to many of David's and had some wonderful talks. I just thought mention a couple of the ones we've had here. Some of you might remember. We had the fantastic Mel Elliott, who came and gave a talk about dead slebs. Was anybody here for that? Dead slebs? It's a fantastic top trump game, which may come up a bit later. It's a genius idea, and that was brilliant. We've had Pythagoras, we've had Spartans, we've had autism, we've had the interpretation of dreams, we've had hair, we've had wonderful, wonderful talks.
Toilets.
We've had toilets. We have pets. We have pets. We have had toilets. Yes. So we've had all sorts, and they've been brilliant. And as I say, it really is. It's a range of everything. I remember. I think, David, I'm right that I've heard you often put a call out for a talk about watercress. Is that right? Have you
Somebody offered about 12 years ago, and I got excited. But sort of hold the audience's attention, or not, for 15 minutes, and then they disappeared into the ether. So I've been trying to find them ever since.
Well, when I told a mate of mine, I've said this before, but those who haven't been won't have heard it, so I'll say it again. But he's a great foodie lover, a friend of mine, and he's obsessed about food. And when I told him about this idea, he said, "Brilliant, Tim. Put me down to give a talk about pasta, fresh or dried. Does it make a difference?" And that's it. I mean, it can be and he would give probably a half-hour talk on it. And yeah, but I'm sure it will be good. I'll let you know if it's on. And there was also one thing I wanted to say as well. After that first night we had here in March, which was again similar to this. Someone came up to me, I can't remember who it was, they may well be here tonight, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but it was a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I do say it very often when I give an intro, that they came up to me and they said, "Tim, never been to a night like that before, that was absolutely brilliant. I don't have a passion at the moment, so I'm going to go and get one." So I can give a talk about it. And that is really, really lovely. That's I suppose, in a way, if there is a kind of aim or idea, then that's sort of it. Anyway, I can take no credit for this idea. David is standing there, and he birthed it many, many years ago. I can also take no credit for the name, because my daughter, who is standing there too, Hannah, lovely Hannah, she came up with the name Bavard Bar. As many of you will know, you've heard me say it before, Bavarder means to chat in French, so it is literally the chatty bar. And Hannah came up with the idea of the name, and I think I flicked you an email, David, and you liked it, and that was like, well, David likes it, that's good enough. I'm going with that name. And Hannah came up with it. So, but one thing I can claim credit for, total original credit, I think, is this thing called KP Light, which is essentially an improvisation wildcard slot. And I know that there are some KP lighters in, as I like to call them, in the room. Essentially, I offer it up the chance twice on a night, a sort of wildcard slot where I have 6 pictures that are sort of on a PowerPoint loop, and they will come up for tonight, actually 15 seconds each, so it's a minute and a half. But the speaker that comes up, the challenger, won't have seen the images before, so they're literally walking into the unknown. So they're walking into the unknown, and they're going to speak nonsense or whatever to these slides they've never seen before. So that is KP Light. 6 images. I've tried 20 seconds, I've tried 10, and at the first ever KP Lighter is here at the back, Bryony, a fantastic, you did the first ever, didn't you? Many months ago. Smashed it out the park. We've had many since. Ruffs has done one, Pex has done one. If I missed you, I'm sorry, but there's a few not here tonight that have done them. And they're a lot of fun. It's silliness. It's not, it's just a bit of wild card stuff. So I have 2. and they're a bit Christmassy. Just to give you an idea. So it's maybe a little bit left field Christmassy, but I thought what I normally do is I do the first one just before we have the second speaker, and then I do the second one just before the third speaker. But because we have this little Christmas quiz tonight, which is going to be just before the second speaker tonight, I'm going to offer the chance for this first KP Light after my little intro. So just, no one may come up because I don't think you've had enough to drink. But who knows? There are some people out here I know would Kieran, I know would love to. There we go. But absolutely no pressure. So, right. So we've got 3 fabulous speakers tonight. I will introduce them properly in a minute. We've got these 2 KP Light wildcards. We've got a little Christmas quiz. We've got a fantastic prize. There's mince pies. I mean, bloody Christmas. So I just, it's brilliant. So there's everything going on. But before I get to the Bavard, as some of you know, I would like to do a little intro. And I think last month what I did. Oh, I should have done that. That's the KP Light, KP Nuts thing. Last month I did a little thing. It was Halloween, so I sort of thought I'd give you a couple of spooky facts about Eastbourne. I told you you all live here, but none of you seem to know your town was cursed, so I told you it was, and you all ran away. And he cursed it back in 1897 and said that if that chimney ever fell down, then your town would be cursed. It fell down in 2001. Anyway, so I do a little sort of... so you're all screwed. But there was a coven of witches met, and they exorcised the curse. So you could be fine. But that happened, and so I give this little intro. So I was thinking about tonight, and I thought, well, I've got to do a little intro. So what shall I do? So, Christmas. I know. I'll find some remarkable Christmas Eastbourne facts. So last night, sat down, Google. Fucking nothing. Absolutely. Completely fuck that plan. So, do you celebrate Christmas in Eastbourne? Do you even care about the baby Jesus? Do you? So, I couldn't find anything. But what I did find was a couple, and so just a couple of things. There's a couple of interesting Sussex-based facts. So I've kind of, there's a link. So, some of you will recognise, I'm sure, that watering hole. But here you go. I thought, well, this will do. It's Sussex. It's not Eastbourne, but it's Sussex. So, Christmas Eve, 1836. If you can cast your mind back. Lewis, did you know we suffered the worst ever avalanche in, and I think UK history? There's some historians in the room who will probably. Well, I'm seeing some nods, which is good. Sorry? That is, in fact, the snowdrop, yes. There we are. There's plenty of historians here. So, the avalanche in 1836 was, according to my very basic research, was the worst ever avalanche in UK history. 15 people, I think, were buried, but 8 died. It was, I think it was Cliff Hill, that's where the snow fell from, onto South Street and buried the houses there. And that pub, the Snowdrop Inn, is of course where it fell. In fact, it fell onto the cottages that were known as Boulder Row, so I'm kind of guessing that some other fate befell them, maybe on a previous occasion. Anyway, I didn't do any further research about that, but I thought, well, I can't leave you with that rather sad tale. So I then discovered this little fact, which you, again, I'm sure as historians will know about, this Lord of Misrule. Have you heard of the Lord of Misrule? Do you know? Do you even care? No. The Lord of Misrule. Okay, so if you haven't heard, it was a Middle-Age custom that we used to do. I think it was sort of castles and monasteries would establish a Lord of Misrule around Christmas time, and for the 12 days of Christmas, this Lord of Misrule would promote mirth and merriment during the 12 days of Christmas. So I think, minister of fun, really, at Christmas, and would preside over bizarre activities where order was inverted. So then I thought, well, okay, that's not really Sussex related, but I discovered that in Chichester, so Sussex, on a very cold winter's night back in 1586, a certain William Brun, or Brun, I'm not quite sure, was elected Lord of Misrule, and And he was out during the 12 days of Christmas, and it was the 30th, and he wandered into his local pub, the Swan Inn in Chichester, and there he came across a Mr. Weston, who was in his pub. And Mr. Weston was visiting Chichester. I'm looking at my notes here because I literally have only just discovered this information. Mr. Weston was visiting Chichester on Admiralty business, but I'm not making it up. This does all come from 16th century Chichester consistory court records, so it is all true. And our Mr. Weston was visiting Chichester on Admiralty business, and the Lord of Misrule, Mr. Brun, a kind of, I suppose, a forerunner to Blackadder, really, discovered him and saw an occasion for seasonal fun. And what he did was he extracted a penance from Mr. Weston. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe there was some drinking involved, I would imagine. And that penance obliged Mr. Weston to submit to the indignity of riding a broomstick from the Swan Inn to the town cross at 9 o'clock that night. So that's what happened. Well, I mean, and that's the end of that story, which isn't really going anywhere. But I don't know why, but I like to think perhaps he added a bit of flavour and got him to do it naked. Maybe. But anyway, what a wonderful thing. I mean, that Lord of Misrule, we obviously, it's died out, unless, of course, we're going to wake up in 2018 and discover that Theresa May and Donald Trump are nothing but Lords of Misrule that we've all been subjected to. So, anyway, that's enough from me. We are here to Bavard, so I need to introduce our fantastic speakers for tonight, which is always a reveal that I hold back, as David does at the Catalyst. So, our first speaker up tonight is, and I have introduced him a little bit already, is David. David's going to go first. As I say, he's the host of the Catalyst Club. He's a writer, a broadcaster, an odd podcaster extraordinaire. He's produces. I think describes himself as a cottage industry, essentially, of all sorts of stuff on BBC Radio and Radio 4 a lot. Is that right? So David is going to talk to us tonight about the world's worst orchestra, which I think I'm right in saying, David, comes from your new book, The Mysterium. Is that
coincidence? I happen to have a few here tonight, but that's coincidence too. Yeah.
So we're going to hear from David in a minute, and as I say, there will be a signed copy on offer for the winner of the quiz. So there we are. That's all to look forward to. Then next up we have, so the second speaker, we have Andy Ruffs, who sits in front of me, and Ruffs. This will be Ruffs' second time speaking at the Bavard Bar, and Ruffs has also guest hosted for me when I fucked the date up and forgot to come. I didn't quite forget to come. I booked a holiday. And just quickly, in terms of Ruffs really kind of epitomises the essence to Bavard, really, because Ruffs was at that very first night, spoke to me a couple of days later and said, Tim, I love the night, and you know, I'd love to give a talk. And then Ruffs did. Ruffs stepped forward and gave a talk at the second ever Bavard. So in fact, Ruffs is a genuine Bavard, a true Bavard, and that's the thing right there, that thing. So Ruffs' talk tonight is, have I got this right, Ruffs? Education, my own meandering experience. That's correct. Fabulous. And then, last but not least, we have the fabulous, the one and only, we have Julia Kaiteya, who sits right in front of me, and those of you that know me know I could probably talk all night about Julia, but I won't. You'll be rude to hear. So, but it's sort of how to describe Julia just very quickly. I mean, we'll hear from Julia at the end. But I'd say, just very quickly, that Julia, the time that I've known Julia, which I think is probably sort of 6, 7 years, one of a handful of people who I think came into this world and just simply gets it, really. And I suppose you could say a truly enlightened soul. And I would say saved my life. So, in terms of the time that I have spent with Julia and worked with her, so it's absolute privilege and pleasure to have Julia here. Well, to have all three of you here tonight and is an immense privilege and pleasure, and I hope that you will all, I'm sure you will enjoy their talks. And Julia's talk, I must tell you, entitled Barefoot and Homeless. which, well, I'll say no more. What I will do, I will hand in a second over to David, but there is, of course, this KP light that waits. But we can do it again. If someone rushes up, then I'll stick it on. If not, I'm going to hand straight over to David, and we'll look at the KP light options a little bit later on. Yes, so let's do that. Right, thank you very much, David. If I can.